We're back at Sound Deluxe today to talk to sound librarian and sound recordist Dan Kerr. Sound librarian, sound effects recordist extraordinaire. Tell me about what you do here day to day.
Day to day, I spend a lot of time doing databasing and managing the library from data entry to making sure that categories are filled in on the server. Right now, our editorial staff has access to greater than 450,000 records, which equate to one sound file per record. And on occasion, I get to go in the field and do recording, which is another passion that I really enjoy doing.
So you've got some stories from your field recording experience that you were sharing with me. Tell me the tiger story. Was it a tiger? Was it a tiger or a lion?
We actually did both.
Did both? Okay.
We started out with an African leopard, which was quite fun. And this is my first time doing live animals like this. We went up north of Los Angeles here and to this animal farm, and they let us go directly in the cage with the animals. So we're in a cage. We can't even get away if we want to.
You're nuts, by the way.
Yeah, we're in the cage, and we did the leopard first, and then we brought out a Bengal tiger. And there's a trainer to my immediate right. There's Peter Zinda, another recordist with our company here, and then the main trainer on our far left. So there's basically four of us standing in front of the Bengal tiger. And this particular tiger, her name was Katie. She was a fun tiger, fun-loving, very playful. And Peter and I were both holding our boom poles and our Zeppelins down near the ground. One of the rules they said immediately when we first got there was don't raise anything, especially your boom poles, above the tiger's head, because they start getting very curious and they will pounce on them.
Do they? Is it that they're threatened by it?
They feel threatened, but they've been trained and raised from pups, so it's kind of a playful thing. But if they do jump, there's nothing stopping them. I mean, they're on a leash, but come on, how much is a leash going to hold back a 400-pound animal? So Katie was on the stand, just like you'd see at the circus. And I'm sitting there, I'm at the ready, 1 foot back, 1 foot forward, boom pole, monitoring my dials, making sure I'm dialed in. I'm using two different microphones, one at a hotter level in case Katie lets out a really big roar or growl, and one at a lower level so I can, capture whatever happens at the time. But for some reason, Katie gets off the perch and she gets down on the ground in front of me. And I didn't think anything of it. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, she's going to do something. So without any warning, and I mean no warning at all, she just swipes and hits my microphone. The whole boom. It just smacks it and then walks right in front of me. We all took a huge step back. My adrenaline is just pumping beyond anything I've ever experienced.
So what do you do in those scenarios? I mean, do you trust that the trainer is going to keep the animal away from you and you just go about recording? Are you in like defense mode?
You have to have an element of trust. You really do. I mean, I'm a God-fearing man, and I just hope that the good Lord will protect me and that the trainers, they are, taking care of the animal, even though they're on a leash, and they were on a chain leash too. But it's like, hey, it's one guy holding a 400-pound. He's what, 170 pounds?
Right.
He'll drag him along.
How did you get your start in sound recording?
I always had an affinity towards sound, even from a young child. When I first went to Radio Shack with my best friend and playing around with the knobs and everything, I really had a mentor as a young child who really taught me about microphones, whether they're dynamic, condenser, and how they work. And then after a while, and years in the Navy as well, I got out and I went to school. And I took two different schools, which I loved doing. It was great knowledge, and it's helped me out immensely. But it wasn't until I really got here at working for Sound Deluxe that I started going out in the field and really recording for feature films. One of the earliest things I did with Sound Deluxe was a civil action, John Travolta's movie that took place in New York. and we needed to go out and record. And here's the irony of it. I like recording, but a lot of times I end up being the person that's actually walking the Foley or doing, you know, in this case, I was driving the Porsche Carrera, you know, up in the middle of nowhere so that we could get the sound that we wanted for the movie. So, and I love racing too, so it didn't hurt.
It's always fun to be able to drive a fast car and not get in trouble for it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What are some tips and tricks that you have that you would share with somebody who's maybe just now getting into recording?
Start out with good gear. Start out with good gear. I mean, there is cheap, affordable gear out there. Quality equipment is really the key thing, and once you have that down, I mean, you really can achieve a lot, and it's affordable nowadays. In the past, you know, it wasn't as affordable to get either a multi-track recorder. Even DAT tapes were very good, and I started out with DAT tapes a long time ago, not to mention using Nogras too, analog Nogras, which are really good because it's analog and you can really slam that tape and fatten up some explosions that way.
Right.
But anyway, the other tips are you really got to pay attention to your surroundings when you're recording. You have to find a quiet place to record. If you have an indoor space, if you're doing something small, that's a great way to record. If you're doing outdoors, you got to find places that are away from, you know, airplanes. And being in Los Angeles, planes are flying over all the time. I mean, we've recorded so many spots out here, and it's, you know, hold the roll, you know, you got to hold all the time. Isolation, trying to get things isolated so you're not having multiple layers of sounds together, because that makes them more useful down the road for editing if you're an editor, or you know, various other applications with that.
What's your favorite part of field recording?
Field recording, I think, is just the setup, probably, and really trying to find the sweet spot and really tuning in all the microphones with the recorders to get good levels. And that's probably my favorite part about it, is just really tuning it in to get the best sound possible.
What would you say would be one of the most common mistakes you see amateur or guys that are just now getting in the business make when they're out recording?
I think a common mistake is not watching when you're recording, whatever you're looking at, not being aware of what's behind it. And you start picking up sounds behind whatever it is you're trying to record. You know, if it's a person, you know, don't have a road behind them, because you're going to pick up traffic noise that way. So that's one of the biggest mistakes.
Isolation.
Isolation.
What would be your advice to an independent filmmaker who's not very sound savvy?
For an independent filmmaker, I would say the key thing is to have an open mind and find somebody that knows sound, and at least, you know, trust them, place some faith in them, trust them to do it, but convey what your concept is as clear as you possibly can.
Jovi.